Hey, this is Bull Buchanan, and I am drinking with Moe's. I'm at Moe's right now. Come on over.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin' at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome to Drinkin' at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff because it helps with that pain in the ass algorithm. We're in most places you can find your audio podcast. Today, I'm excited to have with me former WWE star Bull Buchanan. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, man?
Oh, I can't complain too much. This last Monday, I was at Monday Night Raw because it was here in town, so that was pretty fun. Hadn't been able to go in quite some time because they really only come around once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've been good. But first thing I like to start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what made you, that time you said, you know what, I'm doing this.
I started out as a fan, I guess, like everybody else does. But I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I found a UHF channel on our on our TV, and wrestling was on there, and I didn't know what it was. And I asked my dad about it, and of course, he knew what it was. And I became a fan. I'd watched other sports. I'd watched football and basketball. Even being a small child, I was really into sports and stuff. And I remember turning this on, and Terry Funk called. I think maybe it was Wahoo McDaniel called him a yellow-bellied, egg-sucking dog, and my jaw dropped because I'd never. You'd always thought about saying something like that, but you never heard it before. And I was hooked. I was hooked after that. I loved everything about it. The hair matches, back in the 70s and 80s, of course, there was a lot of blood.
Oh yeah.
And so my dad I think my dad was more interested in it just because I was, but he would take me to Carrollton, Georgia on Saturday nights. And that was one of the original Georgia Championship Wrestling. That was one of their big Saturday night towns. And we would go up there. We'd go and, see Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, all the stars that came through Georgia, Freebirds. So I got to be a fan there. And, I remember watching a video with Tommy Rich, and it was kind of like following Tommy Rich for the day. And he was driving down the road in this black Trans Am with the T-tops out, and then he was at a concert that night, and then he was, at a club. So, I was just thinking to myself, God, what a life, man, that would be. And a little later on, I think around probably 80, 81, I was able to get World Class Championship Wrestling. So I became I was already a fan of the Freebirds, even though they were bad guys. They were the bad guys I liked. And I was a huge fan of the Von Erichs. And I just, I was starting to, I guess I was a teenager then. And I was starting to think, because I was already like, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and I was thinking, it might be something I could do. And it just snowballed from there.
No, I can totally get you there. Some of those names you've mentioned, and then Saturday nights, especially when I was, elementary school, into middle school, WCW Saturday nights. It was one
Yeah.
of the premier things, especially when I was, going through elementary school, because WWE, WWF at the time and all that, they were still kind of sporadic. They sometimes they're on, they're syndicated, so sometimes they're easier to catch, and then they had some of the Saturday stuff. But WCW and
Yeah.
WCW Saturday Night was kind of the most consistent thing for me to be able to watch. And growing up in a Catholic household, my parents always wanted to go to Saturday evening mass, and I'd always, once I got into WCW Saturday Night, there'd be more often that I'd be like, man, I want to watch wrestling.
I got a great story kind of related to that. We were, man, growing up in I live about an hour and a half west of Atlanta, and we live out here in the sticks, and I love it. But growing up here was great for professional wrestling, because I could watch Georgia Championship Wrestling, I could watch Continental, I could still pick up Memphis, I could get, and then about maybe 84, 85, Joe Pedicino came out with Superstars Wrestling, just put it all in a huge block on Saturday nights, and you could just sit there and watch all of it. But we had gotten, I think it was after Vince bought the time slot on TBS.
Oh yeah.
And Bill Watts, Mid South, would come on TBS, I think on Sunday evenings at 6 or 7 o'clock. And I just watched it today. I go back and watch it every now and then. And anybody I've ever, trained or talked to about wrestling, I tell them to go watch it. It was you can look it up on YouTube. It was Ted DiBiase when they turned him babyface.
Okay.
Murdoch came out there and he was, I spoke to him briefly about it, after I got in the business, and he actually hit a vein or something, and the blood was just squirting with every heartbeat. It was Sunday night. It was like 6:30 or so, and this came on. I was sitting there watching it. My graduation. It wasn't graduation, but it was it was a practice or something, and all the parents had to be there, and we had to be there. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was 7 o'clock, and this was on, and Bill Watts came on and gave that little speech about, watching Robert Duran give up in the Superdome, and how, and they wasn't going to stop it for blood. It could get gory. There was no way I was leaving my seat. And I thought my dad was going to really whip my ass. And I was 17, 18 at the time, because I refused to leave. I was going to see this out to the end. But yeah, I did the same thing, man. I guess you get it. If you get it, you get it, and you don't, it never makes sense.
Oh no, it perfect sense, because like you said, it kind of fits in with what I was just telling you there. And some people, the people that'll end up watching, listening, they'll remember you as being a member of a few different, factions or teams. First one that came to my mind, that I guess I kind of had to remind myself about this one, the Truth Commission, because back then, like, WWE was somewhat really into factions. There was quite a few of them. What was it like being a part of, that? And we'll go into a few others, because there's a couple here that I want to talk about, but the Truth Commission specifically, because it seemed to be relatively shorter of a lifespan than some of the factions back then, like Nation of Domination always comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it burned bright and burned fast, I guess, or maybe not so bright, but it burned fast. So yeah, the Truth Commission was yeah, I'd been signed with them for about a year, and they Bret Hart was getting this thing together. It was kind of his baby. He was getting it together, and he knew Kurgan, Robert Mayett. He knew him from Canada. The original Truth Commit Mantar, who just passed away. God bless his soul. Mike Hallett, good dude.
Yep, he's from
learned
the same
learned a
town
lot
I
from him.
live in here.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, from Omaha.
Yeah, damn good dude. But I think Owen had worked with him over in Germany for Otto once back then. And Robin, the commandant, the original commandant, was a actor from South Africa that Brett had met doing a Sinbad thing over there.
Yeah.
So they brought this idea back, and it was well, I mean, they pulled the trigger on it in time for Survivor Series, of course. That's what. But yeah, I mean, it. I think I think everybody wanted it to succeed, but it just it didn't translate to the people. To the people in South Africa, I bet that we were just exactly where we need to be. But with everybody else in the world that didn't understand, the Truth Commission was set up by the apartheid government over in South Africa to go back and do something about all the atrocities and all that. But the wrinkle was that it was just as corrupt as it was a corrupt government setting up a corrupt investigation. So we were supposed to be these, just low life, guys. And I think to the people in South Africa, that's probably how it came across. But the problem, we went there one time, in 10 years. To everybody else in the world, we were just like, okay, some South African soldier dudes. So, but I mean, yeah, it didn't last long, but man, we really had it actually lasted longer than it looks like, because they actually sent us down to Memphis. I think maybe in January of that year. We stayed down there till May, June, July, something like that. Okay. And they brought us up. But man, we had a good time. All the guys that were in, and eventually, whatever I still don't really know why, but Mike never made it to the main roster with us. They replaced him with Luke Poirier, who had wrestled for Otto over in Germany as Rambo.
Oh, okay.
So, but man, we all had a good time. We all got along. We traveled together. It was all our first experience on something of that level. Robert and I, were pretty new. Yeah. Robin was he had no idea of anything, what wrestling was. And of course, Mike had been around for a minute, and then when Luke came on with us, he'd been doing it for a while too. So, but we all got along. We all traveled. We all, had fun with each other. We went out, we ate together. If we did go out for a beer or two, we went together. It was a lot of fun. We didn't make we're making good money, but not great money. But man, we had a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, the next one that I was wanting to talk about here, because I'm particularly excited to hear some stuff about this one, because the guy involved that you were teaming with here, I consider one of my first absolute favorites. The first piece of WWE merch I ever bought was one of his. and I'm talking about teaming with the Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
One of my absolute favorites, like to this day. I mean, hell, I somewhat of a figure collector. When I saw this online, I'm like, I had to go and get it.
Yeah, Ray was man, he was just above all everything else. Ray was just he was a good dude. He was a good family guy. He was a good husband. He was a good father. He was just you'll never hear anybody, I don't think, have a bad word to say about Ray Traylor. But yeah, same here, man. I was a huge fan, especially because, I only live about an hour from where he does and it did in Cobb County. So watching him, knowing that he was, knowing that he was supposedly from Cobb County, that's another thing that kind of like, well, maybe I can do this. This guy's from kind of the same place I'm at. But no, the Truth Commission thing fizzled out. I was off the road. I kept busy. JR and Jim Cornette, of course, Jim Cornette was a big part of my career. JR was too. They both gave me the blessing to go out and work indie stuff just to get better. And, I ain't gonna make a whole lot of money doing it, but, just to get better and see if I could work on a different character or something. And Corny called me up. He had an idea. It was Bull Buchanan. But and he laid it out to me. And the first thing that popped in my mind was, oh man, this might work into something with Ray. But in Ohio Valley, I think Nick Dinsmore's put a lot of stuff out of the old Ohio Valley stuff, and it's got a bunch of the stuff that I did there. The original Bull Buchanan was a convict. He wasn't a guard. He was a convict. And so I was thinking, and of course, I told Corny, maybe this could roll into something, maybe I'm his trustee or something like that. And, hold on, I'm going to have to plug my phone up. Don't walk with me for a minute.
No, you're good.
Yeah, Ray, Cornette called me on a Tuesday or Monday. Called me on a Monday and said, "Hey, you're at TV tomorrow." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm driving up to Louisville. That's where we did TV at for him." He said, "No, you're on SmackDown. You're with Ray." So I had to go out and get the outfit. I couldn't find the vest. Ray let me borrow one of his, but yeah, man, it was a dream come true, and it was so easy. I learned so much from him. And not even all, and a lot of it wasn't even just wrestling. It was I I had no idea how to do not a wrestling interview, but an interview with like a newspaper or a TV station, and we did a lot of that back then. And Ray would always volunteer for it. And I came from I guess the old school of thinking, down here in the South that you protect the business. And, that was a totally different thing up there. You were a lot more open about business. So I watched Ray and I watched, how he did things and I learned from him like a lot of guys did, Ray was one of those guys that, a lot of the young guys learned from. And he didn't mind teaching, he didn't mind teaching at all.
He definitely came across as the type that didn't mind it. And I know for me, like I said, the first piece of WWE merch that I ever bought, well, I guess technically my dad bought because it was at my first ever WWE show. I might be dating myself a little bit here, but I was like in third grade and my parents got me the tickets for like Christmas or something. And we were like, my dad and I were on the main floor, like maybe I'd say no more than 10 rows from the ring and like a few seats from the entrance. And I know being a little third grader, seeing him walking by, and I had one of those foam nightsticks, and I'm just like, oh my God. And it was the coolest thing ever. But unfortunately for him that night, his opponent was Yokozuna.
Yeah. We were in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we were walking through the door, and Ray would twirl the baton just all the. And I asked him one time, I said, "Where'd you learn how to do that?" And he said, "Just because he really was a prison guard when he got into wrestling. He was an actual prison guard." So he said, "I just sitting around, sitting around in the tower, nothing to do, just fooling around with it." So we walked out, and he started going, going with it real hard, and all of a sudden it just flew out of his hand. Went about, looked like 30 rows over, and I never really saw where it landed. We got out of the ring. You had the match. Wasn't anything special, just house show match. Got out of the ring. Jack Lanza was there, and Jack came up and said, "Ray," said, "your nightstick hit some guy in the head." And Ray's like, "Oh," and he said, "We got him back here," and he said he just wants, he wants to talk to him, and so of course, this guy's sitting. I got him sitting down because it hit him right in the forehead. He's got this huge lump on his forehead, and he's tickled shitless. He's just glad. He's giggling, and so we went back there and talked to him and laughed. Cut up a little. Ray had, and this is one of the greatest things I learned from him. Ray understood that a lot of times when people would meet him, they would be extremely nervous. And then it showed. Ray had a way of making everybody feel comfortable around him. He would tell a joke. He would make himself look dumb to make everybody else feel more comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
He was able to. He could tell, that these people were nervous. That this was their hero, and they were getting to meet him, and and he would walk up and take their hat off their head and put it on his side. Just stupid stuff to get them to laugh. But yeah, we went back there, and I think if I remember correctly, he signed the nightstick and gave it to the guy. But
oh man,
he probably had a concussion and probably got a few stitches after. But he was damn. It was the greatest night of his life.
So I can understand why. I know I never got the pleasure of meeting him, but if I were in that guy's shoes, oh boy, a few stitches, a little lump on my head. Hey, I gotta meet the guy. I'm good.
Right.
Because interesting thing there, with a lot of fans, that get starstruck. I don't consider myself as like too easily starstruck, although there is one wrestler that if I ever got to meet him, I don't know if I'd be able to get a word out. And it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. I swear, like I have my figures here. Some of them that I'd love to get them signed, and I'd just be like, "Hi, cheese."
And that's another thing Ray told me. He said we're all marks for something. It just kind of depends. We being in wrestling, we don't, we meet somebody, it's meeting, meeting a colleague, meeting another person. But I remember a time when have Dale Earnhardt walk down the aisle at Walmart beside me and watch my reaction. I do the same thing as the fans do, to us sometimes, hell, I've literally, we've gotten off group flights and watched women, just like glue themselves to Rocky, and families would have to come like peel them off, and they'd be crying. They'd be so happy they'd be crying. But yeah, we're all fans of something, even if it's something outside of your, I'm a huge NASCAR fan, so put me in a NASCAR race, and I went to me and my son, my youngest son Zach. We went to the Talladega race last year, and I don't think he'd ever seen that side of me, because I was, I was a fan of something instead of everybody being a fan of mine, I guess.
Oh, I can totally understand. I know me. I've been pretty much a lifelong fan of the Green Bay Packers, and I've literally for the longest time on my bucket list was always at least one game at Lambeau Field, like at least one. I don't care who they face. Bonus if it's a rival, but I don't care who. I don't care where I sit. And then this, it was late last year. My dad calls me up and is like, so I hear you want to go to a Packer game. And I'm like, it's only been on my bucket list forever. So yeah.
Right.
Well, the last game of last season, I got to go to my first game at Lambeau Field. I was damn near 40 years old at the time. And at one point, I wondered if I was ever going to go. Like, if I was ever going to actually knock that one off the list. And getting to do a Champions Tour before, getting to be there for the game, I was practically freezing my ass off. But I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually here.
Right.
So I totally understand. And the whole thing about being a mark for something, there's a lot of people in the business, I know some locally, that use that term kind of in a negative context. But it's like, especially if you're in the business, it's like at some point you are a air quotes mark for somebody. Somebody inspired you to want to get in. So yeah.
Well, I guess everybody get, I've always wondered, like to go to watch a movie like Top Gun. I remember going and watching the original, when it first came out. And I've always wondered, and I think it is true, if when pilots go to watch Top Gun, if they sit there and just, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Days of Thunder. Yeah, I was a big NASCAR fan, so I knew a little bit about the sport. And Days of Thunder came out, and I was sitting there the whole time critiquing it instead of enjoying it. Because I'm telling my girlfriend at the time, oh, they don't do that. No, that's bullshit. They don't. That's not high stuff.
That's kind of why
we all get kind of jaded to. But I have to say. The only movie that I didn't wonder about that was actually The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. That was so close to real that I couldn't really. I mean, there wasn't much of it you could dispute if you really know the business.
No,
so to their credit, I think those guys actually pulled off something that's pretty hard to do.
Oh, I've actually always been kind of curious how people actually in the business viewed it. So it's very, very interesting to hear that. And
I'll tell you an interesting story about it real quick.
Oh yeah.
I think I was over in Noah. Me and D'Lo were over in Noah at the time. And we'd been wanting to see it. And of course, a lot of what I'd heard about it from guys, it exposes the business, A lot of the business hadn't been exposed, for the last 20 years. But, I get it. But we watched it over in Japan, and I remember we were watching it in one of the dressing rooms, and Kensuke Sasaki came by and stuck his head in the door just to say hi. And so I was watching, something about wrestling and stepped in. And it was about the time that Mickey Rourke was making a blade. And he turned about 50 shades of different colored red and purple. He wasn't mad at us, thank God, but just that that's the difference in the business over there and over here at the time. The business was still pretty well closed off over there at the time.
Yeah.
He's like, holy shit, watching something like that, knowing that he go out and watch it. But yeah, I mean, I thought, the mark is a derogatory term because, it comes from, the carnivals, the old story, the guy would come in, they'd see a sappy guy with a wad of money and somebody would put a chalk mark on him. And that told all the vendors, hey, big spender, take his money.
No,
So it is a derogatory term, but like I said, hell, we're all marks for something.
Very, very, very true. Now, but you started talking a little bit about Japan, which we will go into that here in a little bit. But the one last group that I wanted to talk about before, right to Censor, because man, now the thing with that, especially during the time that it was going, it was during a time where, man, perfect heel situation right there. People just hating the censorship. They're loving the attitude of everything going on at the time. So then you get these people in here that are wanting to censor everything, and people just love to hate it.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, we struck a nerve. We struck a nerve with that one. Yeah, because we had been giving them anything and everything for a few years, both companies. Well, all the companies, ECW, WCW, all of us. We were all just, what you guys want to, bra and panty matches, let's dress them in feathers, what else can we do?
Yeah.
And, I think that the people in the office at the time I think everybody had realized, it was kind of a Pandora's box. The stuff that we were doing back then was kind of always there. But to me, and just my opinion, the older guys knew not, like I say, it's a Pandora's box. They kind of knew not to touch it because, once it's open, you can't close it back. Once you've seen somebody, dive off of the top of a building through 3 tables, an arm drag ain't gonna get it no more.
Yeah.
The old promoters, the old timers, and the promoters, they knew this. I mean, there was, they could have went that way a long time ago. I guess if they got away with it on TV, but it was kind of a Pandora's box, and once we'd opened it, it's hard to put it back in. But and the parent teacher councils, Vince was having a hard time with those guys. So I don't know exactly whose ideal it was, but I mean, it was a good one because it was right time, the right place. I think they were already wanting to kind of dial things back. Perfect way to do it. I mean, how do you get the Godfather off TV talking about pimping and rolling smoke? And how do you do that? You put him with us, I mean, and now it's off TV. I heard, I don't know if this is true, and I want to say that maybe Stevie told me, but I'd heard that even they'd gotten like maybe not a letter, but somebody somewhere had said, oh, these guys are actually trying to make a difference. They're actually trying to clean up their sport. They're taking the initiative, and we were getting attaboys from the exact people we were making fun of, actually.
That's fun.
But yeah, man. I mean, we had a lot of heat back then, and I mean, it was understandable. I mean, it ain't hard to figure out when you start taking away all the fun stuff. Of course, people are going to hate you. And that, that annoying fire alarm sound.
Oh God, that whole thing.
Yeah, that had everybody pissed off before we ever said a word. They were mad as hell by the time we got to the ring just because of that. And like I said, we had a writer. I wish I could remember his name. He was a real good, stand-up dude. Wrote for us, and Stevie. Stevie, had his, and we all, had different ideals. We'd throw in and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it was good for me. I was already a jerk. I'd never been a baby face up there, so I was always a bad guy. So it was nothing new to me. Charles Godfather, he went from being arguably one of the most popular guys on the roster, fan wise, merchandise. He lost a lot of money, merchandise money, which, hopefully they made it up on the other end for him. But, he took a pretty big hit on merchandise, I'm sure Val did too. But you know, it was I think it was probably a little harder for them to do. Ivory, she's a damn trooper. She just jumped right in and she embraced it. She would go out there. Ivory was I'm not saying anything anybody doesn't know. I mean, Ivory was a very good look, very attractive woman, and she dumbed herself down. She made herself look as plain as possible. She wore no makeup. She pulled her hair back. She wore the long blouse. She sometimes on house shows she would wear the old, the bloomers, the long underpants with the, stuff like that, just to add to the gimmick. And man, it would just I thought we all worked together really well.
Well, that you did. Like you said, everything, the timing of it all just fit. The music, the entrance with that dang alarm that you just like. I remember at the time, I'm like, oh God, that piercing my ears. It was something else. Now, you brought up Japan, and I haven't seen too many as of late that can say that they've literally most of the big Japan promotions. Because when I was doing my homework trying to get some lists and stuff together, I was seeing All Japan, I was seeing New Japan, I was seeing Noah. Like these are like the big stuff over there.
Right. Yeah. Me and D'Lo, we both left New York around the same time. I think D'Lo was maybe like a few weeks after me. It was kind of a perfect storm there, I guess. John Laurinaitis had kind of taken over talent relations, and he said he was going over to Japan in a few weeks, and he would, because we were coming close to, finishing. I was coming close to finishing up. He said he'd go over there and, talk to Muda. Muda was actually just bought All Japan from Mrs. Baba. The people that don't know that there were two companies in Japan, New Japan and All Japan. There had been a few other smaller companies, Tenryu had War for a while. There'd been a couple of others, but that was your two main companies. Well, after Mr. Baba died, they pretty much the booker Masawa had a falling out with Mrs. Baba and basically took everybody except for three people, took the TV, took everybody, all the talent, and created Noah. So All Japan was kind of on its heels. Muda had come in and just bought into the company, and got a call. I actually got a call from Mike Awesome. We'd worked together a little bit up in New York, and another guy that I always wanted to have more than we had one match, but I always wanted to have a lot of matches with, because I thought our styles were so similar and would match up so well.
Totally.
But Mike called me and said, hey, they want to bring you in over here in All Japan. And shortly after that, D'Lo had gotten released or had left up there. And so we were both going at the same time. So we kind of got on the phone, because me and D'Lo had known each other since Smoky Mountain. Kind of almost broke in together. So, yeah, we went over there and we worked for All Japan for a while, worked till I think we stayed in All Japan from like 2003 to 2005. And then we made in all transparency, we had just done a dome show with New Japan. The wrestling landscape over there now is so different than it was back then. All Japan and New Japan had been the powerhouse. I mean, they rivaled Vince McMahon. The only thing that had limited them was actually the size of their country.
Yeah,
they rivaled Vince McMahon on everything in Japan. So with the creation of Noah, All Japan was left with none of its all the stars, Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, all those guys went to Noah. New Japan was in a really weird place because they couldn't figure out if they were a shoot company or a wrestling company. If you go way back, Barnett, I can't remember his last. Barnett did a lot. That's where he started over in New Japan, and they were doing these crossover matches. MMA versus.
Yeah.
They were kind of, they were down too, but yeah, we were there in 2005, and we did a dome show with New Japan. And right after that, they had asked me and D'Lo. They wanted me and D'Lo to stay home for 6 months, and we told them, so we can't do that. I mean, we made good money when we come back to the States, but that was our big deal was Japan, of course. And we sat home for a month or two, and I think D'Lo had made already to kind of throw some feelers out there, and Noah called and wanted us to come over, and it was really cool because Muda, we had been a part of a faction there called ROD. It was myself, D'Lo Brown, Taka Michinoku was the leader, Taikea, Monkea Mossman, who was an All Japan original. He was there. Umaga, that's after 3-minute warning, that's Eki came over there.
Gotcha.
So we were all over there together. We were all in this group, and when we made our debut in Noah, Muda actually let us use the name and sent Taka over there, and Taka came out with us, kind of give us the rub, get us going. But when we stayed there, I think till 2009, 2010, I think was when I did my last tour there.
Okay.
D'Lo had left about a year earlier. He had went back to New York. He had that little short run up there. I'm kind of think sometimes he might have wished he'd hadn't, but it's hard to say no when they come calling.
Oh no, I can totally understand. Yeah, because there's definitely people that you'd think, man, with getting released, why would you want to go back? But hell, if they're calling you and offering you a boatload of money, why the hell not?
Right.
But now, what have you been up to lately? Because I know there was a few years there where you weren't really on the wrestling scene too much, and now it seems the last few years there's been, at least reporting online, there has been some poking back out there.
Yeah. So I did my last tour in 2010, I think 2010, 2011 with Noah. The business was down over there, kind of just like it was here. But I was still making good money, just wrestling here. So I was just kind of concentrating on that. And about that time, I started thinking about, maybe not so much winding down, but looking at something else. And I had some friends that I'd grown up with that did it, and I'd always kind of talked about it. And in 2012, I joined the Sheriff's Department here where I live in the county where I live at, and I started out working in. Everybody has to start out working in the jail. I started out in jail, and I was still wrestling a little bit. And when I was actually sent to get mandated to the police academy, I decided I was going to hang it up. I was going to do a retirement match, and the Sheriff's Department very graciously helped me with that. A guy named Mark Sims, he was a sergeant. Mark Sims, I'd known him since I was a teenager. He was a policeman in town here. He helped me. He helped put it all together because I was at the police academy, so he pretty much put all this stuff together. But we got my high school gym where I played basketball at. We packed it out. They even sprung for a ticket to get D'Lo out here, and so me and D'Lo tagged, in my last match. And I'd really planned on putting it by, not putting it behind me, but putting it to bed, I guess.
Yeah.
but I knew that my one son was absolutely going to try it. I had a feeling my other son would too, who's a little younger. But I'd kind of always planned on, well, if they want to do it, then I will do it to help them. And sure enough, my son Ben Brooks Jensen, who's in NXT, he approached me. He'd been around it his whole life. He'd been going to these outlaw shows with me. But I think he was 14. I let him start refereeing. I let him referee for 6 months to 8 months. I want to say he had his first match at about 15. Of course, he was as big as I was. He was 6'4", 6'5", 250. So he was big enough to handle himself. But and of course, I got taught. It didn't take a whole lot of arm twisting, but because it's something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I got, we would have tag matches occasionally, different places here around Georgia, the places he was working, I'd come in and do something with them. And so, one of my favorite movies, John Wick, dip your finger back into it and, it reaches out and grabs you. And so, but and actually, our last match together, it's taken me about 2 or 3 years now to recover, because I was, I was trying to show everybody that I wasn't 54 years old, and my body finally said, "All right, dude, you are," because I was doing everything that I used to do, just not as fast and not as well, but and now my youngest son, Zach, he started. I think he started maybe at about 16. Had a few matches, and then this past year, after wrestling season was over, he hit it pretty hard. He was going pretty much every weekend. And he's had to back off because of he's a senior this year, so football season and then wrestling season. But yeah, he's he's 6'3", 6'4", ripped. So yeah, I don't know. I'm out of kids, so maybe I'll start training my grandkids now. I don't know.
Hey, it could happen. I know, talked about before we get into my things I like to round off the show here, you talking about the age that they started off. Man, there's some really big names out there right now that got their start relatively young. I know two of the ones that jump out to my mind right now are doing amazing things with AEW right now with Nick Wayne and Billy Starks. I've actually got to talk with Billy Starks for the podcast here, and good Lord, they got their start so young, and they're already up to just absolutely amazing things. Like the sky's not even a limit for those two.
Yeah, I think it's just society in general. Because if you think about it, when I was growing up, you were lucky if they had a football team, at 7 or 8 years old. And now these kids are going to camps, at even younger than that. It seems like, and I guess in times before, like I said, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but it seemed like you had to be a little older and have that respect to get a spot. I know even in NASCAR, all the top drivers, they were all older guys. You had to pay dues, but now they're starting so young and they get so good so fast that it's if you don't now, if you're not playing baseball, if you're not already playing baseball at 5 or 6, you're behind the times.
No, definitely.
I think that's society in general.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, I have 2 categories here that I kind of like to round stuff off with. One's a bit of a name game where I try to go through look at some match listings and see, you know, theme it towards the guests. See who you've been in the ring with, who you've at the very least shared a locker room with, and you give me some quick thoughts on the person when I give you the name.
Sure.
Now we kind of ended a little bit with some talk on Japan, and this guy, one of my absolute favorites in Japan, which I don't know why I didn't know if I'd find him on these match listings, but Tomohiro Ishii, New Japan.
Ishii, yeah. Like I said, it's weird over there because the country is not that big, and a lot of times New Japan will be in there Tuesday night, and then we'll be in there Wednesday night, and they'll have a good house, and we'll have a good house. Ishii, good dude. He was, he was fun to hang around. He, and like all those guys over there, just damn, machine in the ring.
Yeah.
You watch those guys, you really feel like a lazy piece of trash when you sit there and, me and D'Lo are sitting there playing our PSPs and those guys are in the ring, just breaking their backs. And then they'll go out and work that night. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember one of the first matches I saw his was, the thing that jumped out to me was the fact of here in the States, you see somebody throw a headbutt and you sell it. Oh, it looked like it hurt. But him, you could literally hear the bone on bone smack. And I'm just like, okay, I got a headache watching that.
Yeah, you don't have to sell his. It hurts.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Now, but, that's the style over there. So,
yeah. Totally different style over there. But the thing I love about him is, I gravitate towards those people that, they ooze that intensity. And him, especially when he has a championship, the look on his face when he's walking to the ring with that title on his shoulder, around his waist, he just looks like he's telling you without saying it that you'll have to damn near kill him to take that from him. And I love it.
Oh, yeah. D'Lo actually is. I can't take credit for this, D'Lo, but it's totally one of the truest things I've ever heard. If you want to understand Japanese wrestling, watch The Last Samurai. The Japanese culture is based off Bushido, the code of the samurai.
Yeah.
And those guys are warriors, man. I mean,
totally.
You watch the matches that, those guys had, especially, hell, even now, but especially whenever, back in the 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys were killing each other.
Totally.
And they would stand there and, and people wonder, you see it all the time. You see it so much now, it's just commonplace, the forearms, back and forth, nobody's giving. Well, that came from Japan, and then the reasoning behind it is that Bushido, you don't give an inch, you don't go down, you go down fight, you don't lay down, you stand there and take it until you can't take it anymore, and that's the mentality over there. So,
yep, definitely. Now, the next couple are kind of 2-in-1s here. The first of them, these guys kind of reunited here as of late over in AEW, Edge and Christian.
Yeah. Dude, so we were the Truth Commission, and Ed and Adam and Jay had their I don't know if it was a tryout match, but they were on the loop with us that weekend, and I'm pretty sure they had their own car, but they kind of followed us around. So I got to meet them right out of the gate, and man, they just good guys. They have a passion for this business.
Definitely.
And looking at where, I guess you could say that about all of us, but you look at the old pictures, two little skinny kids, and you watched it progress all these years, and even we got to work. We didn't get to work with them as much as I would have liked to because we were heels also.
Yeah,
but easy to work with, and but they got a passion for this business.
Oh, totally. Now the next one, one's been a little bit more active as of late. I mean, for the last, I don't know how many years he's been active. But they actually just reunited for a match over in Impact. The Dudley Boys, or Teams 3D.
Yes. Dudley Boys. I could we could sit here till midnight and tell stories about them. The one thing I'll say about both of them, but good dudes, both friends, people I consider friends. I never got hurt one time in the ring with them. Of all the stuff we did, of all the crazy shit they would do, they always took care of the person they were working with. I mean, of course,
yeah,
everybody throws a live round every now and then.
Yeah. No,
but and we worked with them. We worked with them a lot in New York, and all three of with me and Ray, we worked with them a lot, and in the right Censor, we worked with them a lot. And then we went to Japan, and me and D'Lo were usually the tag team. And they came over there. I think maybe they were over there for 2 or 3 tours. We would do a tour. We would do like a month, then come home for a month, and then do another. So they were over there for 2 or 3 tours, and we were working with them every night. And man, we just had some good times. Some good times in the ring, a lot of good times out of the ring. They were good, and I still talk to Devon pretty regularly, and I got to see Bubba a couple of years ago at a convention in New York. Got to see him for a little while, but yeah, I mean in just a few words, man, they all the crazy stuff they did, they always took care of the people they did it with.
Yeah, because those guys are known for some pretty intense stuff. So it's good to know that they always knew how to take care of people. So, with all the craziness, nobody ever really got hurt to an extreme.
I do have another good story.
Okay.
That they were part of. So when we're doing Right to Censor, they hired 2 girls, 2 ladies, because I guess the Godfather's hose. We would get to a town and go out, to the local strip club, and hire a few girls to come out with it. Well, they decided to hire 2 full time, and I don't remember one's name. Her show name was Frosty, but the other one was everybody will know it was Buchanan, Victoria.
Oh,
go back and look at some of the stuff. She was one of the original. She was one of the 2 that was hired, and she went out to the ring every day and asked Fit to work with her, and just got made a good impression on the company, and got wound up getting a full-time job, and career took off. But we were putting her through a table that night, and Bubba and Devon knew that Charles might have a problem with it, and they stayed on him all day about, hey man, I don't know, she's pretty light. I don't know if you can get her through the table or not. And and I could see it building up, and she'll go through the table. If you go back and look at that tape, we were going to power bomb her through the table, and Charles got her up, and I was supposed to grab her head, and we were going to put her through the table, and I never got a chance to grab her hair because she went up and went down so fast. Her her feet landed behind her ears.
Mm.
And that's because Bubba and Devon had been gassing him up all day about, I don't know if she's pretty light. I don't know if she'll go through that table or not. So he was bound to determine she was. She did. So, but, worked out for everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
But, just some of the stuff you do to amuse yourself.
Yeah. No, definitely. Now, last but not least for this category, he's kind of taken somewhat of a backstage role with AEW right now. But Paul White, a.k.a. Big Show.
Big Show. Yes. Met him, another good dude. I remember it was so random. He walked up to me at TV one day and he had a DVD in his hand and he said, it was "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" I think he had just went to the screening or something, and they gave him some free merchandise. And he walked up to me, handed it to me. He says, "Here, you like that hillbilly shit anyway." Another good guy. I mean, we wound up working with him a whole bunch. Me and Ray did. We all did. Easy. I mean, he was always, easy to. Of course, he's easy to sell for. He was the one guy. I mean, when he grabbed you, he wasn't heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But when he grabbed you, you knew that you had been grabbed. And when you went up for a choke slam, you were going, whether you wanted to or not. He was so big. And, he moved so well also. Big. But, man, to see him get in shape, a few years ago, to see him get in the kind of shape he did, oh, man, that was great. He's a good dude, man. He was easy to work with. He's fun to be around. We had some good times, too, in and out of the ring.
Oh, yeah. And you bring it up great. The in shape that he got in the last few years, like even before he got out of WWE, man, it's awesome because everybody wants to be healthier, keep in shape, and it was great to see that he was doing that. Now, I have this next category, some kind of random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. You give me the first answer that pops in your head when you hear the question.
All right.
First one of them that I like to keep in here as much as possible because I love hearing the stories. Craziest in-match moment for you?
You stumped me on that one. That's there's been so many of them. It's hard to we were doing Monday Night Raw in the Dome here in Atlanta, and Stevie was talking, and I was standing there next to him, and I was oblivious. A guy popped up on the edge of the ring. Now, granted, he probably just wanted to get on camera or something, but I just felt the wind come behind me, and Godfather just, kicked him into the front row. If he'd had a knife or something, he would have got me because I wasn't paying any attention. I was watching Stevie, but Charles was watching, and he got him. And he got him good. I was kind of concerned if that dude made it home that night. He kicked him completely off the ring. If you ever find the footage of it, I'm sure it's hilarious.
You know what? I'm going to have to look it up because there is plenty of footage out there on like YouTube and stuff of fans, trying to roll into the ring and the stuff that ends up happening to them. So
I saw one try it with Kane. Glenn Kane was working, and the guy tried to roll under the ropes, and it looked like Kane just stepped on his head and just stopped him right there. The guy didn't move again. Security grabbed him. I guess he was okay, but yeah, he just like stepped on his head and stood there.
All right, next one, kind of somewhat related with some of the stuff we just talked about. Hardest hitter.
Hardest hitter. Kensuke Sasaki.
Yeah,
Huge star in New Japan. Became a star in All Japan. A huge star in Noah. Go look him and Kenta Kobashi. Just absolute wrestling legend. Had a chop fest that went for almost 6 minutes. If you've never seen it, go look it up. I think they were in the Dome.
I'm definitely gonna have to look that one up for sure. I know I've seen some matches where chopping, where it's like they're chopping each other so hard that I was so close I could see individual beads of sweat just flying off of them.
Oh yeah, this was one of them. And I say that he was never unsafe. I never worried about my safety with him, but man, he brought, and he expected it to be brought back. You know, I've heard other people. I thought maybe it was just me, but I've heard other people talk about it. You know, you'd get off that plane from Japan, and you know the guys around here, they would they were drawing straws to see who had me first, because it took a little while to gear back down, you know, because you were so wired and ready to, you know, every night was just damn go.
Yeah.
You know, and you get back over here and, you know, some poor guy, you know, that's doing this on the weekends for fun, you know, he don't feel like getting his ass whipped for, you know, 15 minutes. So, but yeah, they had to kind of gear back down a little bit.
I can understand that. Now we've talked a little bit about some movies. What would you say favorite movie of yours?
Favorite all-time movie, I guess. You know, I'd go back to my childhood. I guess was Smokey and the Bandit. I thought that was you know, I wanted a black Trans Am and a red shirt and a cowboy hat, and I'm, you know, just cruise around all day. And you know, that's, you know, hard to say, I guess. I mean, I love action, adventure, you know, love comedy. I guess there's so many genres, you know. Another favorite of mine, A Few Good Men. I love Tom Cruise. Keanu Reeves. I love the John Wick. Love the John Wick thing. You know, yeah. Just I'm so disappointed to see they killed him off in the last one, but who knows? Maybe he'll come back.
Who knows? Yeah, I know one of my all-time favorites has always been Forrest Gump. Like, I've literally seen that movie so many times that I've actually been to some of the Bubba Gump restaurants, and like the servers will ask you trivia questions about the movie. I can answer their questions before they're done even asking them. I've seen it that.
My son, Brooks Jensen, he actually calls me the Forrest Gump of wrestling, because, you know, I was that guy at so many big things in our business. I was kind of that guy peeping around the corner, you know, to see what was going on. You know, kind of
like he is in all those historic,
you know, I was there for the Montreal, you know, 97, the screw job, you know, the night we bought up, you know, just all these little historical things in our business. It seems like I was kind of peeping around the corner, you know, trying to see what was going on.
Yeah, that I get images from the Forrest Gump movie in my head, and you in similar situations with wrestling. Yep, I totally get it. Now, this next question, one that I would feel weird if I didn't have this one in here with the name of a show like I have, Drinking at Moe's. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or one of each, because I've had plenty of people on that for one reason or another don't drink, so I try to be respectful of it.
Sure. I mean, I'd be a real hypocrite if I said I hadn't drank before. Especially being in this business. So, yeah, I would have to say it's a combo, and it's something me and D-Lo came up with, I guess, just out of sheer boredom. Well, Teddy Long, which me and Godfather and Teddy Long were riding partners for a long time. Teddy Long's drink was Bailey's and cream and coffee. So when me and D-Lo would go to Japan, we would start the morning out. Of course, he was coming from West Palm. I was coming from Atlanta. And we would usually meet up in Texas. But we would start the morning out with Bailey's and cream and coffee. We would start that till we got to Texas, and then I think in Texas I would usually switch over to a Bloody Mary, another semi morning drink, and then somewhere between Texas and Tokyo, Japan, we would swap over to sake or Japanese beer. So that was kind of my recipe for disaster. By the time we got to Tokyo, we weren't much good for anything except get to the hotel room and fall out. But yeah, I'll start out with a Bloody Mary, and then or start out with a Bailey's and cream, and then go to a Bloody Mary, and then get in a Japanese frame of mind. So,
gotcha. Yeah, when it comes to the hard liquors, I do enjoy a Bloody Mary. I'm big into margaritas. The one that I ended up stumbling on it when I was actually on my honeymoon, it was Jack, Coke, and Grenadine. It basically tastes like a Jack and Cherry Coke. Delicious hell.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big beer guy. Like I've had, coincidentally, beer that I bought when I was up in Wisconsin for that Packer game. I've been the Spotted Cow. It's pretty damn delicious. But anyways, last but not least here, best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Best advice. Some of the best advice was given to me by a guy named Mike Jackson. People now probably recognize him for his, he's been on Impact. He's 70-something years old and still going out there and having just fantastic matches.
Yeah, I've seen some.
But he was, I watched him when I was, growing up. I watched him on TV. I watched him in Continental. He was a ring announcer. He was a wrestler. He did a little bit of everything. Shrewd businessman. And I had been in business maybe a year or two at that point. And he told me, he said, when you start thinking about this as a business, you'll start making money. And as years have went by, I guess, when you think with your heart, we all love this business. We all have a passion for it. We'd all do it for free. We've all done it for free. We all just want to do it. We love it that much that we would go out there and do it for nothing. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and realistically, in a 20 or 30-year career, what you do to your body, you really need to be compensated for that. And, but a big part of being compensated for it is knowing what to do with it. And that's another thing I learned from Ray. Ray was a great businessman. I was just, these huge checks were coming in. I didn't know what to do with them. And Ray helped me, kind of figure out because he'd already been there and done that. So like JR says, you pay your taxes and save your money. I mean, I didn't make enough. I didn't save enough to retire at 45. But at the same time, I had somewhat of a plan of what I was going to do. And, I made good money. I saved as much as I could, still got a little bit of it. But, I remember telling people, I didn't have a backup plan, and I didn't. I mean, this was the only thing. But if this wasn't going to work out, I knew I had to. You got to feed yourself. You got to put a roof over your head. So, yeah, I mean, as much as we love it, and you hate to break it down to, to money, just terms of money.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, you do kind of have to. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things. Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they want to go ahead and follow you, they can go ahead and do that.
I'm not a huge social media guy. I got a Facebook page. That's about it. I like to get on TikTok and watch people bust their ass, but other than that, I got a Facebook page. It's Bull Buchanan. They can find me there.
All right, we'll get that in the description. I can start hearing my dogs rumbling around upstairs, so I better get going and checking on them, see they don't making a mess up there. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight, and best of luck with everything with Sheriff's Department and everything you got going on.
Nah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me on.